Thank you all for being here in another live of me, Ari Does It, or as most of you know me, Rashid. In this live stream, I want to address something that is misunderstood a lot by the world. And the thing I'm addressing is this phrase, accepting people for what they are. Now, or is accepting people for who they are, whatever variation of the phrase you use. This is a phrase that's often misunderstood. So, that is what I'm addressing in this live. Again, if you're here, let me know in the live chat you're here, please. Thank you very much. It's very simple, folks. During this lifetime, you will encounter bad people. Yes, some human beings are just bad. Why are they bad? Because they are addicted to seeking relief. They are addicted to avoiding reality. Every addiction is about avoidance of reality to begin with. Yes, there are some human beings who are just bad people. That's something you need to accept. Now, there are folks who would say, Rashid, evil does not exist. Evil is something we made up. That's not true. Evil does exist. And some people are bad people. Now, there's a difference between evil people and bad people. Evil people are people who are invested in ruin. And they have no intention of giving up their investment in ruin. So they don't even consider their own safety nor their own happiness. They just want others in their misery. Those are just evil people. Then you have bad people. The bad people are not evil, but they're bad. Why? Because they're addicted. And because they are addicted, they end up enabling evil, directly or indirectly, whether they're aware of it or they're not aware of it. And most bad people aren't even aware directly that they are enabling evil. But anyway, you will encounter bad people. Now, with bad people, you can relate to bad people to some extent, as long as you know how to deal with them. You get me? But evil people, you should avoid at all costs. But anyway, you will encounter bad people as well as evil people. That's obvious. So, what do you do when you encounter bad/evil people? What do you do then? A lot of folks go into denial. They do not want to admit that they're dealing with corrupted individuals. They do not. So they end up making excuses for other people. Now, look, excuses are appropriate when a situation can be acute. Excuse there is just a legitimate reason they can't come to work because they just had a car accident. If someone had a car accident and is still affected by the trauma and now they're a bit socially withdrawn, that is a reason. There's not an excuse. So you can excuse them if they decide to not get involved with social events that much. But there comes a point indeed that they need to process the trauma and become social again. That's true. But for a little while, you can excuse them if they're a bit socially withdrawn. Now, what I'm saying here is that there are times not under any circumstance be justified. Look, if some it is scream at you because you're about to cross the road while a car is coming, that's justified. If they're screaming at you because you are walking into a dangerous area, they should scream at you because they have to alert you. But if they're screaming at you and you're not putting yourself or others in danger, why are they screaming at you? Now, if you are a reprobate, if you are a monstrous human being that's causing harm, then they shouldn't be screaming at you and causing conflict. They should just avoid you. If they're screaming at you and you're not causing any harm, neither yourself nor others, why are they screaming at you? What's the purpose of it? There's no way to justify it. There's a difference between someone having a loud voice. Some people have loud voices. It's just the way they are, and actually verbally screaming, being very aggressive and violent with your speech. If people very aggressive and violent verbally towards you, and you're not causing any harm to yourself nor others, that means that they're just dumping on you. As simple as that. In that case, there is no legitimate reason for what they're doing. In such a situation, you have to admit this individual is just using me as an outlet for their own internal unrest. So they have decided to violate me instead of dealing with whatever it is that they need to deal with. So you realize that you're being violated, and you realize that this situation will only escalate further and further, and you'll only get harmed more and more. Or if you fight back, it may lead to a cycle of violence, and someone may die, someone may get hurt. So and it will also affect other people around. So you realize, you know what? I accept this individual for what he or she is, namely a coward that wants to escalate to someone else, and that's why I remove myself from this dangerous individual, and then I remain safe, and they get a chance to repent and become better if they want to. Okay, that is accepting someone for what they are. It doesn't mean you've approved of what they are. It doesn't mean that you justify what they are. It just means that you have accepted what they are in the present moment. And that is something we as saints need to learn to do. Because way too often we do not accept people for what they are. Look, I'm not saying that if someone is bad that you need to approve nor endorse how they are. When you endorse what someone is, that means that you promote and you sponsor it. No. If someone is very impatient and very verbally abusive, you don't condone, you don't approve, and you don't endorse what they are. But you have to accept what they are in the present so that you know how to deal with them in a safe way. It doesn't mean you justify them being difficult. It doesn't mean you justify nor approve of them being the way they are. But you have to admit how they are factually in the present. And that's where a lot of people go wrong. Let's say now you married someone, okay? And during the first few years of the marriage, you realize soon that this individual is not what you thought he was. Now, what do? Either you divorce this individual and you avoid domestic violence, because when there is tension in a household over and over again, when there's negative tension in a house over and over again, it will lead to domestic violence sooner or later. By the way, that tension itself is a type of domestic violence, that negative tension. Either you divorce the individual because you realize that there's only going to be domestic violence because of this, or you learn to adapt and deal with how the individual is. But whether you divorce or you learn to adapt with the individual, in both cases, you need to accept what the individual is factually. Okay? Too often people go into denial because they don't want to face how someone really is. Look, if someone is a coward who wants victims to relieve themselves, then that's what they are. They are a coward that wants to relieve themselves at the expense of someone else. That's it. If that is what they are, then that is what they are. But a lot of people have emotional investments. For example, you are attached to your parents because obviously your parents raised you, so you have this attachment to them and you see them in a positive light. But then people tell you, okay, Roger, let's say your name is Roger. Someone tell you, Roger, you talk very good about your parents, but how come you're smoking 50 cigarettes a day? How come you're addicted to gambling? And Roger say, well, those are bad decisions I made on my own. But then they correct you, no, 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 Roger. Nobody makes decisions on their own. Yes, you make decisions, but you select from options that are around. If you choose the wrong option, you choose the wrong option. If you choose a good option, you choose a good option. But the options must be offered onto you. Okay, society offered you those options to smoke cigarettes and go to gambling. That's what society offered you. But how come you even consider those options to be anything worthwhile? If your parents raised you so great as you claim they did, how come you ended up with two addictions in your late teens and in your early 20s? So then Roger thinks, you know what? This is true. Somewhere, the way I was raised, something went wrong. And then you need to admit, okay, that means my parents weren't really that as great as I thought they were. Period. You admit it. But what happens often is that people go into denial. They do not want to face the fact that their parents or their siblings or their spouses or their children or their grandparents or grandchildren or whoever is not who they expect them to be. Look, evildoers as well as bad people, because again, there's a difference between bad people and evildoers. Okay? An evildoer just persists in misery and demands others to be part of their misery. And they will cause harm to make people miserable so that they remain relevant. That's an evil individual. Someone that's bad is just avoiding issues in life over and over again, and they keep making excuses. Those are bad people because they end up endangering themselves and others. They're not evil because when something really evil happens, they will oppose it, they will fight it. So they're not evil people, but they are bad because they're stuck in addiction. They're stuck in uh, an attitude of fleeing, which is not a healthy attitude. Now, one thing you need to understand: bad people, you'll figure them out very quickly. Evil people do their best to hide who they are, but eventually the mask will slip. So eventually, when someone is disturbing, they will tell on themselves one way or the other. The mask, quote unquote, will slip, and then you will see what's really there. When someone accidentally shows, because no evildoer is going to always show how self-destructive they are during his lifetime, unless they're mentally decomposing and falling apart. Apart from mentally decomposing, falling apart, no evildoer will openly show how self-destructive they are. They will not. So they will always put on a good image of themselves to convince you. So because they're because they are doing an act, there comes times the act slips and you see what they really are. I'm talking about those moments when the mask slips and you see what's behind all their quote unquote acceptable social behavior. When that happens, that they accidentally show who they really are, stop denying what you saw. Stop denying what they said. Stop denying what they didn't say. And stop denying what they didn't do. The moment the mask slips and you see what someone really is, do not deny that you've seen it. So, that is the number one error most people make out there. When the mask slips and they see who someone really is, namely a coward who wants to dump on other people, they tend to think, no, 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 this can't be my mom. This can't be my dad. My mom loves me. My dad has the best interest at heart for me. Or this can't be my spouse. My spouse loves me. We are in love with one another. Or this can't be one of my children or one of my grandchildren because I so-called raised them well, or my children raised their children well. Too often when the mask slips, we are quick to come with logical explanations that don't exist. Look, Let's say Satan appears to you, disguised as an angel of light. But while Satan appeared to you as this holy angel of light, suddenly the disguise uh, had an error for a few seconds, and for a few seconds you saw Satan in its fallen shape. Let's say yes, because Satan is in a fallen state now, and he is deteriorating. But Satan will never appear in his deteriorating state. He will always appear in a wholesome state to trick you. What if Satan would appear to you as as an holy angelic being, whilst really the archdemon? And what if for a few seconds the masquerade filled, and you could clearly see for a few seconds that it's really Satan you're dealing with? Are you going to deny that you saw Satan in his real form? Or are you going to say, oh, so this is really Satan deceiving me? Let's get out of here. What will he do? Okay. Someone comes with religious stuff over here, so they're put on timeout. It's said in the book of Isaiah, our righteousness are as filthy rags. It doesn't say that we as human beings are as filthy rags before the Heavenly Father. So that's not true. That's church teaching that keeps people depressed and addicted. So don't come with that church bullshit here in the live stream. Seriously. I've been addressing these things over and over again. So I don't know why this individual just came up with this church bullshit over here to excuse negativity. Next time you come with such church stuff, you're blocked. As simple as that. Now you're on a timeout for 5 minutes. So if Satan was masquerading as an angel of light, and for a few seconds his morph state would fade, and you could see that he's just the archdemon in his fallen state, are you going to deny that you saw Satan? No. You're going to get out of there. You're going to say, Satan, get out of here. But let me tell you, often we encounter satanic minded people, and when their mask slips, we tend to say, oh, well, that a rough childhood. Oh, well, they just not that educated well. Oh, well, they just didn't like someone, as if that's ever an excuse for treating someone badly. So we tend to come with logical reasons that aren't logical. And I'm telling you, you need to learn to accept people for what they are. Look, people, as long as they're alive, there is an option for them to become better. If they are reprobate, they will likely never get any better. But if, apart from reprobates, as long as someone's alive, there's an option for them to become better. And that's true. And we should endorse the fact that there is an opportunity for them to become better. But listen, they're not better yet. So as long as they're not better yet, you're dealing with how they are now. So you have to admit how they are now so you can know how to deal with them. As simple as that. So learn to see folks for what they are, not for what you need them to be. Maybe you had parents who were very neglectful, but as a child, it was necessary for your mental development to think that your parents had the best interest at heart. So as a child, you kept holding on to this idea that your parents did what's best for you. Now, as in your late teens, you begin to realize, no, my parents are very neglectful. So eventually, you need to let go of that coping mechanism and face the fact that your parents are neglectful. Only then can you process and heal from whatever happens. So sometimes denial is a healthy coping mechanism for a moment. Because if something's too shocking for you and you're not able to process it, then denial can be a proper coping mechanism for a moment. But that's the thing, for a moment. Eventually, you have to face what is, not what should have been, but you have to face what is. All right? So that's all I have for this live stream. This live stream didn't take that long. Thanks for being here. Keep on agreeing with Christ. I'll see you next time. Be at peace.